Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level.
President Trump today calling out former President Obama after DNI Tulsi Gabbard sent a criminal referral to the DOJ related to her claims that Obama-era officials manufactured and politicized intelligence to create the Russia collusion narrative in 2016. Gabbard also teeing up that there will be more declassified documents coming this week. Ahead of that, here's what we've learned so far. December 7th, 2016, the assessment reiterated that Russia did not tamper with election infrastructure. Just one day later, the editor of that assessment canceled the brief, quote, based on new guidance. By December 9th, 2016, Obama convened National Security Council principals and ordered a new assessment. And on January 6, 2017, the new unclassified assessment was released.
Hello everybody, I'm Alfred, and you're listening to Alfred's daily Q&A live stream podcast. This is a live stream on IG that I do randomly but daily. It could happen at any time. The time schedule for now is not fixed, but you can hop up on the live, ask any question in the comment section, or if the live stream is over, you can post any questions in the comment section. I'll be answering them in future live streams. I would like to focus on a theme. I kick off with a theme of a series of topics I want to talk about that relate to what's trending right now. And that being said, you can hop in and ask all kinds of questions, whatever, unrelated, related, whatever. I'll be answering them depending on how reasonable your questions are. That being said, I'll kick off with talking about what's trending online, which is Donald Trump posting an AI video meme of Obama being arrested. Now, I have a Truth Social account. I went on Truth Social to look for the post. I personally did not see the post because Trump has posted so many things. So to skim, as I skimmed down, I didn't see it. But so many people are saying that yes, he actually posted it. And I won't put it past Trump. With Trump, what you see is what you get, and he's obviously, him. He doesn't act like what you would think a political figure should act like. He's him, and he keeps it real, and that's what people like about him. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has launched a criminal investigation into the whole Russia collusion host. Let's be frank. A lot of presidents, this is not new. A lot of presidents do shady things. We all know about Watergate, especially American presidents. Presidents do shady things to consolidate political power. It is not just Obama. If you look into the Clintons, George Bush, and the rest of them, you see similar things. A lot of politicians use their political power and abuse their office. However, I'm not saying that they shouldn't go after Obama. I'm just saying that the idea that it is outlandish is crazy. The idea that, this is an attack on a quote-unquote black man. This is the white man versus the black man. They're trying to get the quote-unquote first black president, which he's not, because he came out from a white woman's stomach. Barack Obama's mother is white, but everybody conveniently ignores that reality, which he did not ignore throughout his childhood, that his name was Barry. But that being said, that is beside the point. The reality is that it is not new. I would say that the only reason that, or one of the reasons why President Trump himself did not do such a thing is because, number one, he's against the deep state. Number two, because of who he is and how much of an outsider he is, he has to keep his hands cleaner than everybody else, because they'll go after him for the littlest thing. So there's that. Then, of course, there's the fact that President Trump is more honest than all the previous American presidents in recent years. So that's just obvious. But, I mean, look at Clinton, Bill Clinton, and his association with Epstein. Bill Clinton is a pedophile. This guy, while he was president, he was sleeping with little kids. So this is somebody that's involved in facilitating. He's a recipient of child trafficking and human trafficking. And also look at the Biden administration during the whole open the border situation, where the borders were open. Look at all the human trafficking that went on. Look at all the child trafficking that went on. There are thousands, well over 30,000 children that have gone missing in America in recent years in the name of open borders. Where are all these children? These children are now sex slaves. Understand, and this is something that was talked about in the documentary as well as the movie of Sound of Freedom. It was talked about clearly there that unlike drugs, if somebody is in the business of illegal drug trafficking, when a drug hits the consumer's stomach, that is it. That is the end of that cycle. It's no longer generating income. But in human trafficking, you can sell the same child over and over and over again to the same customer or different customers. So there's more money in child trafficking than in drugs. So a lot of people who were drug traffickers, when Biden was doing all that open border stuff, a lot of them left drug trafficking and started majoring on child trafficking because there was more money there. It is not like a drug that when the customer consumes the drug, that is it. That's cash flow has ended. You now have to make a new drug and supply a new drug. No, with the child, you keep on, it's a repeated thing, You keep selling again and at a very high price because child prostitution is illegal, So the people who have a taste for it and people who want that, they pay an extremely high price for it. So they are making a lot of money from it, more than selling illegal drugs, more than pushing drugs. And the Biden administration, everybody knew about it. I mean, there are movies about it, but the leftist media jumped on it and said, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Oh, they are racist. They are against immigration. No. When you create channels for illegal immigration and for human traffickers to be trafficking people illegally, oh, I can help you get to this country illegally. How many people have left Nigeria to go to Europe illegally, but they are now slaves in one African country or the other, or one strange country that they don't even know where they are? When you are using criminals to get from point A to point B, only God knows where you will end up. Because understand something about the criminal. The criminal does not care about your safety and they don't have rules. So you are doing something illegal. They are trafficking you is illegal. And so you are in their power. And you have value that you don't know you have. For example, your lungs is money. Your kidney is money. Your heart transplant, your organs, your body organs is money. So you may not have you may not have as much money with you in your bank accounts or in your pockets or in your wallets. But to a human trafficker, they know where to traffic your organs and make up to $1 million from you when you have been chopped up into little pieces and your organs sold. Especially if you have a rare blood type. This is reality. So there are a lot of people, even the people that will buy you whole and use you as a slave, as a sex worker, if it's a beautiful girl or whatever, or a young girl. There are people who, and this is on record, that were found, that there was a little girl that they found the sperm of over 20 men inside her at the border. So that is somebody that 20 grown men raped a little girl. That is what was happening in the Biden presidency. But now that Trump is president, all illegal immigration has stopped because people know that that door is closed. They know the kind of person Trump is. So there is nobody that can come to anybody that can say, I can help you illegally get into America. They know that, no, that person is never going to happen. All illegal immigration has stopped. Now that it is the reverse, Trump is using ICE to go after people on the streets that are illegals and deporting back to them to different countries. You know, putting them in prisons and all kinds of things. So nobody is, let me go to America illegally. Anybody that wants to go to America is, let me follow the legal paths. So it has ended human trafficking and sex trafficking from that. And that is one good thing about Trump. But back to the Barack Obama situation, you know, the whole reality of Barack Obama cooking up the Russian host while he was in office is not new. Different presidents have done all kinds of abuse of power and tried to use their political positions and connections and the power with the FBI to manipulate their way to stay in politics and to stay in power. That is not new. So if Tulsi Gabbard goes hard after it, she's going to fight something. She's going to find enough to lock Obama up. Now, the concept of putting an ex-American president in jail, that door was open thanks to the foolishness of the Trump haters, thanks to the foolishness of the Democrat Party. When they went after Trump and did everything to keep him from winning the election, to put him in jail with all the judges and all the nonsense that they did, they opened that door. And this is a thing that most people don't think about. They don't think about the consequences, the repercussions, and the changes that they bring about by the stupid things that they do. Going after Trump so hard and, you know, arresting Trump over nothing. You know, that he had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Biden had classified documents in his car in several different places. Obama also left the White House with classified documents, but nothing. The judge didn't do anything. Then, when it comes to the so-called allegations of, you know, the rape situation, that's when the woman came out and, you know, they show that she's crazy, you know, and, you know, she's talking about wishes and all of that. Even the Stormy Daniels one, the one with the rape on, that was crazy on so many counts. There's no even need to go into it. But it is a matter of her word versus Trump's word. And even the location of where the alleged assault happened is crazy. And Trump is somebody that has always been famous, you know, way before I was born. You know, this guy has always been famous, and he was born into a situation where, you know, his grandfather, Trump's grandfather, wasn't wealthy. You know, I believe it is like children. It is his great grandfather that came to America, that immigrated, which makes him the only president so far that didn't have ancestors who owned slaves, because Trump's ancestors were immigrants after the whole slavery was abolished, you know, years after. But interesting, you would think that it would be Barack Obama, but no, Barack Obama from his mother's side, you know, because his mother is white, Barack Obama's mother's ancestors were slave owners. Trump is the only president, U.S. president, in all the history of U.S. presidents that his ancestors were not slave owners because of the immigration from a completely different, you know, part of, you know, the world, you know, from Europe. You know, his parents were never slave owners. So I believe it was his great grandfather that was poor. Then I know his grandfather owned a barber shop. You know, then his father, Fred Trump, went into real estate and was buying, you know, and was building and developing houses for tenants and poor people and all of that. Then it was Trump that was like, I want to go to Manhattan. I want to go to the richest places. I want to build in the richest places. So even though his father was like a Brooklyn landlord, that was building a lot of buildings in Brooklyn and Lower East Side, and not even Lower East, poor areas, ghetto slums, that kind of slum landlord kind of figure. So his grandfather was building, and Trump was talking about getting rent in those days was very difficult because you are dealing with poor people. And so how do you get the rent, getting the rents to pay and buy and build more buildings was so difficult. So he in his book The Art of the Deal, he outlined most of all these things, his story and where he came from. He went into I want to go to where the rich people are, and this is the thing about most sons and children, they want to outdo their father, which is a good thing, or their parents. They want something better. They always want something better. So Trump was the first one, who was like, let me go to where the rich people are. Then he joined a country club. He later started his own country club because, if you don't understand, the Trump organization is basically a series of of country clubs. The 12 golf clubs, the golf clubs are basically country clubs. So he now owns them, but he joined one in the initial and got to know the rich and powerful, and we started developing and fighting for, oh, let me build this for the city, let me build this, you want this built, I'll help you build it. So that is how Trump got his start, and with rubbing shoulders with the rich and learning more about the real estate business and going far. That is when he started like, let me build the biggest this, let me build the finest this. He said that when he built Trump Tower, and his dad, who was, a developer before him, who was building for poor people, he looked at the tower and said that, son, why did you waste money at the top, the top part of the skyscraper, that you could have put only the glass at the bottom, and let that nobody's going to look that high up, and Trump wrote it in his book and was like saying that, he found it funny that he can't believe that his dad was trying to save money in that kind of prime real estate, area, but Trump knew his market. He was like, I want rich customers that will be able to pay the rent on time. That is because he saw what his father was going through in his father's time, and this is a young boy seeing his father doing business. Sometimes you go and collect rent in America at that time, and the person you are going to collect rent has a gun, because keep in mind, owning guns was legal. And the person can be like, I don't know if it's a thief, I don't know if it's a robber, and they shoot through the door. So if you are coming to collect rent, you knock on the door and then you stay out, you stay to the side on the wall. You do not stay directly at the opposite end of the door, so that in case the person shoots, the bullet won't get you. And then you will knock and then ask the person that they should pay your rent, and that if they don't pay the rent, that they will be evicted. So he saw his father going through this and said, no, I want to focus on, let me build for rich people. So that's how the Trump family, went from, all of that, starting from the great-grandfather that came in with nothing but his, was not speaking English, came in with just the clothes on his back. Then the grandfather who was a barber, and then his father who went into building for poor people and the middle class. And keep in mind, in those days, it was not a matter of organizing. You yourself, you'll be one of the builders. Even though you are supervising, you are also, in most cases, hands-on. That's how Trump's father started. So it just shows you the progress. And that's why previously, before he ran for president, he was called an American dream story, because they saw the progress of the family. The American dream. These are people that came, immigrants, and then you saw how they progressed to become wealthy. Now the Trump family is a family of billionaires. That being said, to get back to the Obama situation, Obama has put himself in, he did what other presidents have done, but now he's going to answer for it. So I don't know how this is going to go. It's going to be interesting. But considering that they went so gung-ho after Trump, now it's Trump's turn. So he can go gung-ho after Obama, and there's more than enough evidence, not just for Obama, but for Bill Clinton, for Hillary, even George Bush, and a lot of different presidents, because, you know, a lot of presidents do a lot of funny things. And this brings to question, if President Trump goes after Obama and puts Obama in jail, what if the next election, because Trump cannot run again, what if the next election a Democrat wins? What is the Democrat going to do? The Democrats, they have no shame, so they will go after Trump. And if Trump is dead, they can go after one of his kids. So there's that situation. And the Democrats have no shame, so they will all be all for it, unlike the Republicans that may have questions there and there. But that being said, we'll see how that progresses. Another thing I'd like to talk about is, you know, with Ivanka Trump, you know, there are funny things that she's doing, and people need to know how to carry themselves. When it comes to how Ivanka Trump carried herself during President Trump's first term in office, is commendable in the sense of what she did. Every day she was posting things that she was actually doing for the administration. People who want to see that they are pro-women, support women, were interestingly bashing her because of her father. No attention was given to all the achievements and all that she was doing, because she was one of the Trump advisors during his first term. So all the things that she did, you know, it is amazing. Maybe someday someone will take time out to go through them. But that is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a recent mini controversy of sorts. And it's basically how she's acting. Now, she's married to Jerry Kushner. And Ivanka is acting in a very funny way. And this is the thing about modern women and feminism. If you're a woman and you don't have a problem with modern feminism and the way women act today, you have a big problem. You know, especially when you look at you're somebody that want to criticize things like the manosphere and you do not understand even why there is a manosphere, you have a problem. Now, Ivanka Trump, you know, she posted a picture which is still up, and this was since interestingly May 23rd, about, you know, her wrestling, and she's taking kung fu or jiu-jitsu lessons from the guy that Giselle Bundchen cheated on her husband Tom Brady with. So this is a guy, and this is the thing about all these trainers in America. Any guy that is, say he's a trainer and he's training married women in whatever, in either exercising, all these fitness trainers, all these male fitness trainers for housewives or soccer moms and all these things, all these men that come around and they are like, oh, they are either training golf, you know, they are training people's wives in playing golf, or they are training people's wives in jiu-jitsu or yoga or whatever. All those people, they have a track record of sleeping with the women. In the case of Tom Brady's wife, who, you know, was a supermodel. And there's another thing. Men have this problem of marrying based on beauty. They look at women. It's the same thing as a woman who just looks at a man's bank account and say, ah, he's the one. A lot of women marry based on a man's bank account or status. There are other things. When you now start seeing other flaws, and when he starts beating you or treating you like PDD, it is you that will complain. You know, stop doing that nonsense. If you're a man, and nobody has said this to men, especially even in the manosphere, nobody has said this. If you're a man, just because you can get a woman of a certain level of beauty, that is not what should be on the top of your list of when you consider a woman to marry. You know, you may not end up marrying the most beautiful woman that you have the ability to get. It is in your best interest. Marry based on virtue. Marry based on, is this woman a good mother? How is she going to act? You know, marry based on who she is on the inside, not what she looks like on the outside. A lot of men, all these men that are ending up paying alimony left and right, they say, ah, you married this woman. After 2 days, she divorces you and takes away half of your wealth. It is your fault. There are good women who will never do that kind of thing like that to you. But it is you that is going after the most beautiful woman that you can see. Women who are experienced hunters, experienced in knowing how to seduce men and get rich men. Those are who you are falling for, in case you don't know. So that was their plan all along. Let me get a man and get his money. And that is how you end up with all these men, so many men. Part of the engine behind the manosphere and the red pill is that, especially when you look at MGTOW and look at the early YouTube MGTOW accounts, those are men that are paying alimony to like 4 different women. They have married here, married here, married here. All the women left them and took their money and took, their paying child support left, right, and they just bastardized. It's like, don't call me. And they are seeing them. The woman is now spending the money that is collecting from them on a younger man and all of that. So all these men are very angry. And it is a lot of men. And the court systems favor the woman in America. The family courts, when it comes to family matters, they favor the woman. Everybody assumes that the man has done something wrong, that it's the man's fault. The woman is going to get custody. The only condition where the man can get custody is if the woman is a drug addict. And I mean serious drug addicts that we can see, she has gone through, totally, she's a crackhead. You can see it, visibly that this woman is, she's shaking and shivering, she's looking for cocaine. That is the only situation where the man can get custody of the children. Otherwise, the woman is getting custody. And that custody means also the man is going to pay her money monthly. She doesn't need to work. So there's a lot of women that are looking at men who are, does he have money? How much money does he have? Does he have money? So it's like an insurance. And they are just targeting that. And all these men that don't have the common sense to know, a lot of all these women, their body is not even real. Their breast is fake. Their buttocks is fake. BBL. Plastic surgery left, right, and center is not even real. That is who you are going for. When she now does what is the natural progression of a prostitute, because that is what they are. There are different kinds of prostitutes. A prostitute that works with only one client versus a prostitute that works with multiple clients. Both of them are still prostitutes. Somebody whose body is for sale, their body is for sale, whether they have one client or 1 million clients. Whether you are Lily Phillips that are sleeping with 100 men in a day, or you are sleeping with one man in a week, or you have somebody that has one sugar daddy. All of you are still prostitutes. A murderer is a murderer. Whether someone has killed 1 million people or has killed only one person, all of you are still murderers. You understand? So a prostitute is a prostitute. A lot of men are falling for prostitutes and are surprised that a prostitute does what a prostitute does, which is walk away with the money. So men, you have to get this out of your head. Just because you can get a woman doesn't mean that you should. She's very beautiful. I can get the woman. I can get this woman. She's so beautiful. Let me get her. Look at the people from the inside. Who are they on the inside? Stop looking at outward appearances. It is the same thing with women. Women complain that there are no good men out there, that all the men are cheating, all these modern women, men are unfaithful, men are this. They are good men. But you don't look at them. You breeze past them because they do not have the kind of money that impresses you. Perhaps they are making less money than you. Perhaps their job is not is not up to your standard. Or perhaps all your friends have husband that has more money. So you are looking at this, so you don't even consider these ones. But for every woman, there are men who will never dream of cheating on you. But perhaps, you don't look at them, you think, And another thing is that this is something that a lot of modern women will not know. But older women will tell you. Women used to marry based on a man's diligence. They marry based on a man's character, not based on how handsome he is, or how rich he is, or his status. Women back then were wiser, especially because there were no all these the woman gets half the money. So women had to make better choices. It was all on them. If they made the wrong choice, they'll be out in the cold. So a lot depended on a woman's judgment when it comes to marriage. Her future depended on the quality of her judgment. Her financial future, because if she married the wrong man, the man can kick her out and the kids. No repercussions. But when they brought, this first, the child support situation, and, she can walk away with half of your money, even if there's no child. When they brought all of that, it created a relaxation effect and created a situation where men were like all about, man with money, and, the pressure on how right of a choice is this, based on his track record, based on everything. Is this the kind of man I should be with? Because even now, look at women go for playboys. A lot of women, even when you look at the movies, when you look at the novels, which reveals the fantasies of women, the romance novels, it's always a playboy. Look at all the Harlequin. Just look at the covers of all the Harlequin novels that women buy, and then read the back, the summary. It's always a billionaire who is a playboy. So the whole story is about a woman attracting and quote-unquote keeping a billionaire or a millionaire as a playboy. Millionaires or billionaires that are playboys never relax. They never retire. A playboy never retires. A rich playboy never retires. He's a playboy for life. Even if he marries, he will have several mistresses. A playboy never retires. But that is who women are these modern women are going after. You will end up in trouble. But back in the day, women were, a woman could be extremely beautiful. She has options. A lot of men come, but she will look for character. She will look for dignity. She will look for upstanding. And it came to where, the saying that women grow up to marry men that are like, their parents, or like their fathers, those kinds of things. They were looking for qualities that they saw in their father, or, the things that were stable, this is upstanding man, this kind of man. There were men back then that even if they did not even like their wife, they wouldn't cheat on their wife, because they were principled, and women were going for those who they will go for. That was what was honorable, and they ended up not regretting it. But now, women, you are going after the guy that is a playboy, the one that has all the money, the one that when he walks into the room, 3 million women are looking in his direction. That is the one that you want to go and get, and you think he will be faithful to you. The one that when he enters the room, 3 million women all over, their eye just turn and they are looking at him. That is what you want. May God help you. So people need to be smart. Now back to the Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Trump, posting the picture that, she was training, and the way their bodies was touching. And this is another thing. When you're a married woman, and these are things that men look at, you can't just be touching any part of this and that body. And some sports like wrestling, I have a problem, like men and women have no business wrestling. Because now it's like, what do you think the man is thinking? If as your bodies are touching and doing whatever. If you look at the jiu-jitsu pose, with this man who already has a history of stealing another man's wife, because he was having an affair with Giselle Blanchard when Tom Brady and Giselle were still married, and he was the trainer. Now that same man is the trainer for Ivanka Trump. And Ivanka Trump is there posting the picture, and Jared Kushner is doing, he's all this kind of woke men that believe in, I am secure, I am not insecure, I let my wife do whatever. I trust her. So, I feel sorry for you. In any case, the touching, and especially who you choose to be doing this adventure with, who has a history, it's a totally different matter. Then, also, there was a situation where an NFL player, Eli Ricks or whatever, He has been posting the president's daughter is beautiful, Donald Trump's daughter is beautiful, Donald Trump's daughter is beautiful. She, Ivanka Trump, later went, and keep in mind that NFL players and basketball players, NBA players, they have a record of sleeping with so many women. All of them, they are just sleeping left, right, center, as they are going on tour and they are playing their sports. They are every new city, they are just conquering women. So Ivanka Trump, this is a married woman, Donald Trump's daughter, went to the NFL guy's locker, he was not around, and had the nerve to write a note, "I'm sorry I missed you." God have mercy. Stop by to say hi, "Sorry I missed you, Ivanka," and put Go Birds, the name of his team. This is a man that is flirting with you. Donald Trump's daughter is very beautiful. He's posting it on Twitter. Everybody's seeing it. Donald Trump's daughter is very beautiful. His daughter, I find her very attractive. This is a married woman. And it shows what kind of husband that Ivanka Trump has and what kind of control, there's no influence. This is a high embarrassment. So, somebody is flirting with your wife on the internet. And then your wife carries her body and her legs to go to his office, aka, the NFL, whatever, stadium, to, drop by in the locker room, went specifically to his locker and dropped a note, took a picture of the note and posted it on the internet, saying, "Sorry I missed you." Oh God. Later, when we hear that they have played football in one hotel room, it will be like news. This is the kind of stupid things. And, it says a lot about the kind of man she's married to and, the kind of character that she has. This modern woman, whatever. It is terrible. There is no way. The man has posted Donald Trump's daughter very, very beautiful. It is straight up flirting. And he has made it obvious it is sexual. It is nothing else. Why would a woman with common sense or any dignity respond? Do not respond. This obsession with modern women that wants validation, they want likes and tweets. They will post bikini picture of themselves in bikini on Instagram. Instagram is just a softcore magazine that everybody has access to post their own content to the softcore porn magazine. Bikini pic, all the women, they take off their clothes, underwear, so that they will be getting likes and clicks. But what kind of character does it show you? And if you're a man, that is not the kind of woman you marry. It shows a lot of insecurity and, understand the reality of that marketplace, because the reality of Twitter and all these bikini pics and all these women that are posting pictures of themselves on yachts, a lot of men are going into their DMs, and some of those men have money to burn. There are men who are flying them out left, right, and center. So that is prostitution. And interestingly, that is the same thing that P. Diddy and R. Kelly is in trouble for. Someone traveling across state lines with the purpose of sex is considered sex trafficking. But, there should be an amendment to the reality of that, because when it is basically consensual and it is the person's job, because in the case of the R. Kelly, Diddy, and all the women on Instagram, that is their purpose. That is consensual on their part. That is what they want to do. Nobody is forcing them. Nobody is kidnapping them from one state and taking them to somewhere else or deceiving them. They are intentionally selling sex and crossing state lines or whatever, traveling from one country. A lot of all these women that are going to Dubai, that's where is the money coming from? They're on private jet, this private jet. What jobs do they have? Where is the money coming from? And this is the kind of women that, and all of them only fans link, and there are men that are just giving them money. So money is coming easy to them for their prostitution, and they are showing away showing their body and selling their body and all of that. Imagine somebody now trying to settle with them in the future and marry them. How would that work? And is she going to? that is another thing. It's going to create an entire generation of single women, because that woman is not going to settle for an average man. An average man does not make that kind of money. This girl, Bad Barbie, she made more money than the CEO of the NBA. You know, the whatever, the chairman or whatever, the guy who runs all the NBA teams. Even the head of Apple, she made more money than the head of Apple from her OnlyFans. Imagine when prostitution is paying more than a legitimate job. Now, a man that is the CEO of Apple, for example, is not going to marry a prostitute. But now, when a prostitute is making more money than the CEO of Apple, what she's not going to, remember I say women do not marry on their level or down. They want to marry up. If a woman is marrying on her level, that is settling. And I'm talking about on her level, meaning her financial level. Women do not marry men in their income bracket. It's not a win. Or on their own, or in their own status class. You know, they're not looking for that. They want someone that is above. In spite of all the feminism that they will preach and all of that and equality, all of them still want a richer man. Look at even Ivanka, you know, she went for a man that has money, you know. Are they not, there are other responsible men, better looking men or better honorable men than the ones she should. And that is another thing. If Ivanka's husband is letting her flirt with men on the internet, you know, who have a record of playing the field, and I'm not talking about on the field, you know, is it possible that he himself is playing the field? Because it's like the reigning thing now is open relationships. You know, it's just like the Will Smith thing that everybody thought Will Smith was in a good relationship and they thought that it was a wonderful relationship. Just like the same way some people think that want to put Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as the epitome of quote unquote a black marriage, you know, black family goals, quote unquote, and all of that. But a lot of these celebrities are very PDD-ish. You know, you don't know the structure of their life and their sex life and all of that. A lot of them are doing the open relationship thing and all kinds of giving new definitions for relationship and marriage. You know, after all, these are the people that believe a man can marry a man and are making up all kinds of nonsense. So there's so much to be said there. That is crazy, you know. Then lastly, I'd like to talk about Wike, you know, and that's the current Minister of FCT, you know, who was the former governor of Rivers State. Now, you know, for all of you who have been following what has happened or what has been happening, there were reports previously that he was allocating land to his son. Of course, we know about all the land he was taking back. He even took back some land that were given to church. Some land that were he took it. You know, the churches were were kicked out. You know, it's not a laughing matter, but this is why I say it's very important for Christians to be in positions of power. You know, because they know what they are doing. These evil people know what they are doing. And you as a Christian, also, you have your responsibility to do your research well. Don't just use any and any land for church. Do your research well and get the proper permissions and the proper, let it make sense. Not that you build a church in a place that doesn't make sense, but it has traffic. Then later when the government says there's no building that should be here, you now start complaining. There are some places that it doesn't make sense to build certain things. Like some people, they will see petrol station and they want to build school beside petrol station. Is that not madness? If there's something that happens now, how many kids are now dead? Why do you want to build school right beside petrol station? You know, some people, they will see the road here. Has it occurred to you that they may later in the future want to expand the road? You build your church going into the road. Where will cars park if people are coming to your church with cars? Not enough space for parking lots, anything. You just build. Then later when the government comes, your church is there. Because that is the thing about Nigeria. There are some things that are overlooked. A government, you can do something, you can be building where you're not supposed to build. the government will overlook it because you have paid. You have bribed this government. The next government, the bribe did not touch them. And they may not even be interested in bribe. Even if they are interested, will you pay bribe again? And let's say you pay bribe again. Another government comes and says, no, we are not taking bribe. And they have taken bribe from those in other places that they have taken bribe from. In your own case, they are not taking bribe from you guys. Then they start demolition. Are there not many buildings that you see, they have been marked X, but nobody has touched them? You see some buildings, the rest of the buildings there, they have marked them X, they have marked them X in Nigeria. For those of you who are in Nigeria, you know what I'm talking about. Then you go and buy land there because that building have been marked X for 5 years, 3 years. Nothing happened. You go and buy land there and build there. Then later, in future administration, it may even be 10 years. Then they now come and demolish everything. Now your building, they cut it in half, like if it is a bread knife that they used to cut bread. They now demolish half of your building. It is you that did not see what was obvious. So you have to understand these things. And as Christians, you should be mindful of these things. Whether you are building church or your personal house, you should make sure you get everything right. That being said, the government has been known to do crazy things like what happened with landmark results, where all the due diligence was done, the banks looked into everything. They gave this man built the biggest resort in West Africa. Yet Tinubu's government came and demolished everything in the name of we want to build coastal road. And then that route, they ended up abandoning it. So that whole situation, that whole resort was destroyed for nothing. And it's an Igbo man that owns it, and it was destroyed by Yoruba man, which now brings a lot of problem. Okay, now an Igbo man builds something this big in Lagos, Yoruba land. Now, a Yoruba man comes and destroys it. It is war against Igbos. And Igbos have the right to feel that way. Especially as you are still not going to, that part is not going to be used for the coastal road again. So you just destroyed all those jobs, all those business, all that investment. And then foreigners are looking at this and saying, if I invest in Nigeria, this is what might happen. All the previous administrations were okay with it. And another thing is that it made the man now change his business situation, because he said, when he was talking about it, he said that when he was trying to make phone calls, people were like, oh, you were here and you never called us. And I'm talking about politicians and leaders and local leaders. So it brings a new situation in business where you have to have relationship with politicians. Now that is not to the good of the people, because when it is now important for a businessman to have relationship with politicians and local chiefs and all of that, it creates an avenue for a lot of bribery and corruption. Because that was previously not part of his business model. Now he now knows that should be. Even like, for example, when you look at Christ Embassy, Pastor Chris Yakulumi, when he first, in his early days of ministries in the 80s and early 90s, he did not associate with politicians. They were not using police for security and all of that, all that. There was not a political agenda. There was not I would say, not agenda or any affiliation with politics. He was completely against that. However, after they banned Atmosphere for Miracles, it now opened the door of, I have to have relationships with politicians. So ever since then, Christ Embassy, and it's for the good of Christ Embassy, it helped Christ Embassy. Christ Embassy put itself in a position where Christ Embassy is connected with a lot of politicians. And it has helped to open a lot of doors for Christ Embassy across the globe. And they have now introduced it into, it has been ever since the banning of Atmosphere for Miracle. It is part of the church's structure, organizational structure. So in every country, Christ Embassy has a relationship with the government. And this is and this is also why Christ Embassy will always be bigger and succeed more than a lot of people, because they now have a structure of having relationships with the governments, official relationships, participating in certain government functions, winning government officials to Christ, and starting churches that the government officials will have access to attending, a whole bundle of things. So it puts Christ Embassy in a different position. And when you hear Pastor Chris say something like love all nation, those are not just words. I hope you know that the Catholic Church is a nation legally. When you look at the papal seats, you know, the Vatican is a country. A lot of people don't know that. It is legally a country of its own. It's registered as a country. So it has its own situation. You know, it is not like it is just an organization. It's a country of its own. So it can have bank accounts in different distance in different countries, and it is not subject to the rules of Rome or any other country because it's a country of its own. It's diplomatic. So Christ Embassy has that kind of status, and it will never have went for it if not for the banning of Atmosphere for Miracles on Nigerian televisions, which now set its trajectory different. Okay, I have to have some influence with politicians. It is part of it. It is important. You see, so when you do all these kinds of things, you change certain things, and certain things have to change. You know, in the case of Christ Embassy, I'm happy they went the direction that they went, and you know, if you are wise, you will know you should go in. That is a direction that you should go into, because now it's bigger than just an organization. It can't die because it's now a nation, officially a nation. And this is another thing, like people don't realize. Somebody like Pastor Chris, there are a lot of wealthy people that are not citizens of just one country. A lot of people look at Pastor Chris and they think he's just Nigeria because they are in Nigeria. They don't know that Pastor Chris is bigger outside Nigeria than in Nigeria. And they don't know that he's a citizen of multiple countries, including countries like China. People say things like that China, you can't even own, if you're a foreigner, you cannot own land in China. Pastor Chris owns a lot of land in China. So there's a lot of rules that do not apply to him. And all of that, he would not have been set on that trajectory if Atmosphere for Miracles were not banned. You know, I'm not even going to go into whether it is a good thing that Atmosphere for Miracles were banned because that is what happened. I don't look at it as that. I look at it as what the enemy intended for evil, God turned for good. You know, so that is the way I look at it, and it turned into something, you know, good, and it made him realize, let me change, because previously he would never have associated, because that is how the place he came from, because Pastor Chris is a spiritual son of Archbishop Benson Idahosa. He came from that lineage, so that is where he learned from, and that is where, you know, he had his, you know, his mentorship from Archbishop Benson Idahosa. So that kind of thing was not there. So he did not do it. It's like, no, let us separate it. But after seeing certain things, it's like, no, let's change, you know. But that being said, those kinds of things, when it comes to the business world, when you now make people realize, businessmen who have money realize that they have to have space in politics, they have to have relationship with politicians. They will realize also in Nigeria that you can easily bribe politicians, and that is bad for the Nigerian people, because it will now create principalities and powers, human principalities and powers that cannot be shaken. It will now create godfathers, because we now have a businessman who has a lot of money now controlling the politicians, you know. So that is that, but that is a topic for another day. Anyway, back to what Wike did. Wike now has allocated land. This is the person that is taking land from churches and everybody else to his extended family. His father, and this is Abuja land, his father, his brothers, his sisters, his cousins, his nephews, and 33 others. Oh, God. And interestingly, there are people who are looking at all these things. Keep in mind, EFCC said that, I've forgotten the number, whether it's 18 or 15 governors. EFCC, the head of EFCC said that they are going to investigate them, that he promises after their tenure in office. But there is a problem. You have announced that you have this plan. So those governors, because a lot of governors are doing a lot of criminal things, even though he did not name which governor, the governors that are most guilty, they should know that their names they are involved. So the head of EFCC puts himself in a position where they will want to now change the head of EFCC or kill the current head of EFCC. He puts himself in that position. I don't know, he should not have announced it. And people who are saying that, why is he not doing his job? And something I did not realize before that I realize now is that it sounds simple when I say it, but it is easier. It is easier for a poor man to pay for his crimes if he commits a crime than for a rich man to pay for his crimes if he commits a crime. Let me put it this way. When a Yahoo boy does something and EFCC carries him, he does not have his parents, if his parents are aware or if his parents are alive, his parents do not have the money to fight EFCC. His parents do not have the money for the courtroom to get the good lawyers and to fight the Nigerian justice system or whatever, and the connections to call this person and this person, that no matter where they take that person, EFCC carries this person to, they bring this person out and the person follows a due process. That money is not there for the Yahoo boy. As a matter of fact, the people who are affiliated with Yahoo boy will want to run and hide. So the Yahoo boy is now in problem. But when it is a politician, this is a politician that has their children are abroad. They have stolen billions of naira and hundreds of millions of dollars. So they have a lot of money to fight. They have a lot of money to get lawyers. They have a lot of money to delay the justice system and to push in a court case, sue and counter sue and counter sue. So the court process gets on being lengthy and lengthy, and it's like, oh, you do not have enough evidence. EFCC does not have enough evidence for this. Oh, this. Because, you know, people will lie. So it's like, oh, this. Oh, the money came from here. The money came from this. They will do this and do this and do this. So the man that has more money, the politician that stole billions, he will use part of the billions to fight EFCC and fight in the justice system and be bribing lawyers and judges. So at the end of the day, he will end up, if he stole something like $2 billion from the Nigerian economy, from the Nigerian post, he can end up spending $500 million of that money on bribery and on judges and on lawyers. And all those people are now wealthy, legally. They are now super wealthy. And he goes off scot-free with the remaining money. That is not going to be the story for the Yahoo boy. The Yahoo boy is going to be locked away forever. So that is why the EFCC, even when they bring politicians, EFCC does not control the courts. EFCC does not control the justice system. EFCC does not control the lawyers and judges. It would be crazy. That is too much power for one organization. So EFCC will bring it to the courts, and then the politician that has stolen all that money will use part of that money and fight and fight and fight and bribe and bribe and bribe. So at the end of the day, the politician gets away scot-free. You know, the average Nigerian does not have somebody to fight and say, your rights, you know, this, that, and this, that. Everybody has a right for representation. Everybody has this right and that right and this right. So the politician will not spend a day in jail, because they will bring this legal this legal this, and bring this, and bring all the lawyers will now come together. You know, there are people that can hire 20 lawyers and pay them well. You know, and some of these lawyers are related to the judges. And in the case of Wike that has been known to be buying mansions for judges. All the judges have a mansion from Wike and Tinubu. So, is this the person that you want to bring to justice that he's giving away land? And this is not small land. This is premium land, a lot of land, to everybody in his family. His father. I didn't even know that Wike's father is still alive. I didn't even know. He has given land to his father, his brothers, his sisters, his cousins, his nephews, and 33 others. Vincent Wike, Shidi Wike, Shuturu Wike, Christian Wike, Ima Wike received over 14,000 square meters, among others. Hey, hey. So Wike. So this is how Wike was ruling Rivers State. And this is how he has so much power that he can remove governor and put who he wants. Keep in mind that it wasn't even Fubara that really won the election, because it is actually somebody from Labour Party, but Wike was in charge during that election and was kicking away, making sure that anybody that was supporting Peter Obi or Labour Party, their ballot box was destroyed. They did not show up, all of that. There was a lot of violence in Port Harcourt. There are videos online of women that were beaten up. Women that were beaten up by the police. Wike used the police, beat up women for that. You want to support Peter Obi. You want to support Peter Obi's candidates to be president of governor. To be governor of Rivers State. Wike did that and put Fubara there. So I guess that is also part of the reason why he was so angry. That Fubara turned against him. It's like, this guy, without all the things that I did, you will not be anywhere. Now you want to turn your back on me. So it's funny. That is Nigeria for you. We need to pray and act on how to move forward in the case of Nigeria. That being said, I've said a lot. I'm about to check out Alfred.vip for more. Thank you and God bless you. Say this prayer audibly if you've not given your heart to Jesus Christ. Dear God, I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came, died, and was raised from the dead to save me. I confess Him, Lord, over my life and ask you to give me your Holy Spirit to live within me. I receive your Spirit by faith and thank you for I am now born again. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, congratulations, you're now a Christian. Go to Alfred.vip and get resources that will help you with your work with God.